So this is going to be the user interface for TBC that I've been using. Quick guide on it. Now, I'm just going to start going through the add-ons. We've got Azurite UI, Bartender, Classic Achievements, Conductor, Dynamic Cam, Hardcore, Immersion, Mask, Opie, Sexy Lid, and Guards. Character sets in Quest. So, let's see. I didn't really do a script for this, so I'm just kind of winging it. But if we go into... Actually, first let me just demo it. So, this right here is all Dynamic Cam. So when I go AFK, hides the interface and does a camera pan. Then it resets to default. Now, when I'm outside, it's zoomed out. When I go inside, camera zooms in. We go and talk.
Looking for something special?
This is offset position, and this interface here is from Immersion.
Be careful.
So that's the general gist of it. You can change it for combat too. We'll go through all that, but for now, I'll just start going through all of the settings that I have for each of these add-ons. So the main one, well, actually the main one, let's start with Azurite UI, which has all the buttons here. This health bar, this is a rage bar, gives you, if I move a little bit closer you'll be able to see, gives you the nameplates, your nameplates, and it gives you the map. That's all Azurite UI. This enemy health bar up here is Azurite UI. Yeah, okay, so let's see. Your options for Azurite UI are all down here. Actually, there's not a whole lot that you can actually customize with it. Sorry, I'm having trouble with it already. But, okay, so if you hover over it, it'll give you your options. Backpack, options menu, game panels. So, middle mouse wheel, click that down. That's the main options menu, and this is all that we really have here. It's pretty much set to be usable right out of the box. I don't think I've actually changed any of these settings, maybe a few of them. But here's what I have. If anybody wants to copy them, just go through them again. And this is pretty much all you can do. Azurite UI, can't really mod it at all, so that's why the rest of this add-on list is pretty small, actually. So, let's see here. Interface. Here's where, usual add-on interface where you can edit any of your add-ons. There's a couple new ones that I actually added. Character sets, TBC. I just leave this all as it is. Classic achievements. This is an add-on that gives you achievements in Classic and TBC. So, as far as I'm aware, this is pretty standard Wrath of the Lich King achievement system, just without the 70 to 80 achievements. But same stuff we're all familiar with. Professions, reputations, exploration, all that. I've racked up a few. 585 points. Not a lot, but it's fun to use. It's got all the same functionality too. It can, I don't use it like this, but you can share achievements to your guild. And that is about... Actually, I don't even know what these do, but that's all I use it for. So, Conductor, I'll leave all this the same. This is Bag add-on. I was using Bagnon, but I was having issues for me. It was like deleting items as I pick them up, and it probably works fine. I just have to update it, but I decided to just try this one instead, and it's a little bit more in line with the classic bags. It sorts everything out quite nice. It's sorted by rarity, so not bad. Dynamic Cam. Here's a big one though. So when you install it, you will have to go to a preset, and I believe I picked Classic to start with, but I'm not actually going to reload that now because I've modified it. But you start with one of those, and then you can then go into these different situations. So, and they're all pretty self-explanatory. City indoors, world indoors, world combat. I have taxi, I have teleport / hearth, NPC interaction, fishing, AFK, and I was trying to make a custom one, but can't get that working yet. But basically, so world, that's highlighted green, that's where we are now. Check enable situation, right now it's off, turn it on, and you have a few different options. Zoom is the first one that I have, and that will set it to either static value, which is what I have, so right here it's at 8, but move it in more, now it's at 5, but I kind of like 8, so go back to that. You have to toggle it on and off for it to make the effects. But so zoom of 8, transition time, I haven't really figured out what this does, so I just kind of leave it alone for now. But zoom I like to use, set zoom, and then camera settings. Camera offset is the shoulder offset right here, so it sets your character a little bit off center. And then head tracking strength is what kind of makes the camera bob up and down as you move. And when you're in combat, I can show that it's a little bit more dramatic. So some people might not like that. Some people might. I didn't like it at first, but I've gotten used to it using just the default action cam built into the game. But let me find something we can fight and mess around with some of these settings here. Of course I kill that in one hit, but you can kind of see how it makes the camera move with it, so you can adjust that as well. Head tracking strength, shoulder offset, and then the other option that I'll use sometimes is fade UI, so you can go back into the world or into the city and show you how some of these can work. So, dismount, and when I go indoors, you'll notice, okay, this isn't fully counted as indoors, so let's go over to the inn. Okay, so, again, when I go indoors, UI fades, and the camera pans closer, just like that, and so the way you can change that is now it's highlighted city indoors, and so you would enable, you would, okay, I'm already having troubles here, so here we go, city indoors. You would enable it yourself. Of course it's hiding the UI because that's how I have it set, but you enable it. I do zoom. I set zoom a little bit closer here, 5 zoom, and I have the same shoulder offset, 1.5, head tracking, 2, and I also have fade UI checked off, so that will make it adjust as I go outdoors to now we're in city, or no, world rather. We're just in the world right now, and so I have this one set to, they're all pretty similar. Basically I have them in a couple different batches of like zoom distances and whether or not the UI faded. So world is 8 zoom, so it's a little more zoomed out. Shoulder offset 1.5, head tracking 2, but I don't want the UI faded as I'm out in the world, potentially getting into combat, but then as I go indoors, it goes back. And if you want to get your UI back, hit escape, and you have everything back. And there's a couple other situations I have set up. So Hearthstone hides the UI, and then also does a kind of nice 360 camera pan. I'm going to cancel that because I won't actually go. But it will also reset it back to your initial position. Now, sometimes I get this bug here where it shows a cast bar after, but I'm not too worried about that. And you can adjust that to harsh/teleport. Now, this is a default that came with the profile that I loaded to start. But here are the settings if you want to copy them. It does zoom to 5, rotate, it does 270-degree rotation and then pitches it up 15 degrees. Rotate back, I actually kind of want that. This is an option where you can have the camera, I think that was probably bugged because it did rotate back, but it will put it back to the original position at the end of the animation. And shoulder offset, looks like I don't have head tracking set on or the shoulder offset on this, so I'm actually going to add that. And fade UI, so that's how you do the hearth. Set that up. Now let's try that out again. Hearth. So it doesn't really change much, but it gives you the slight head tracking and shoulder offset. Okay, now that obviously this doesn't work completely 100% perfect. I've had a bunch of little things like this pop up where it just did that. Rotated back an extra time, so I'm gonna leave that unchecked and see what happens here. So let the animation run out. Take us back to cancel, and that seems to work. So I don't know why that was happening, but that's probably why I had it left unchecked. So you can go through and set positions for basically anything that you have here. I don't really do dungeons, don't really do raids, don't do arenas, don't do BGs. Mounted doesn't seem to work for me either, but you can have a setting for when you're mounted. Travel form, annoying spells, I don't know what you'd use that for. But anything you can set these to do, you just check it, enable, set your zoom, set shoulder offset, head tracking, if you want the UI to fade, and if you want the camera to return to its default position. So that is pretty much everything for dynamic cam. Now we have immersion. Again, immersion is
what brings
this,
you here?
quest text and like dialogue interface.
Go in peace.
And actually, that what makes me want to go back to dynamic cam, because to do the NPC interaction, this one right here, this is a little bit different from what will come out of the box. This, I added a rotate by degrees. It rotates it 30 degrees to the right, and then it pitches it down to make it look like you're kind of looking up at them. And you can make this more extreme, so like 90 would be the right angle, which is a little bit too much. That could work,
Wings be at your
I
back.
find that kind of gets in the way indoors, so 30 degrees is kind of what I found looks the best, right around there. And so that combined with immersion makes for pretty good quest dialogue setup. So most of these settings I have defaults. The only thing I believe I changed is the scale. At least I thought I did, but maybe not. But you have the option to adjust the scale here, scale slider, so let's turn that all the way up and see what happens. Yeah, so it makes it bigger, but it's a little bit too big, so I'm going to go back to what I had. And you can change the positioning, but this one right out the gate works pretty well. Now, what Mask does is this allows for your bartender bars to get the same skin as Azurite bars, because they're actually hidden. They only showed up when I was in combat, and you might have missed them, but there's another bar that appears right there, and I can show them to you. If I unlock, there's actually a couple hidden bars that I have. This only appears in combat, which I have my consumables. This is just a couple extra buttons that I need, but the rest I'm pretty much able to fit right here on the default Azurite UI bars, because Azurite you can't add any, or you can add a few. and that setting was in here. It's a little bit deeper into action bars, but if you go to more buttons, I have plus 17 added, so that's the most you can go by default. Anything else, you're going to want bartender 4. And if you find that it's not looking the same, that's because you want these 2 add-ons, Mask and Mask Azurite. Azurite gives you the nice button skin that were on these ones that matches the whole rest of the Azure UI. So, pretty convenient, makes it look nice. Now here we have Opie. This is a new one, just started using it, and this gives you a bunch of different rings where you can put different items, different spells, whatever you want really. And so I have one set up for food, I have one set up for weapons, one for consumables, one for my mounts, one for professions, and one for target markers. And so I used to have bars that would be on the right here, and a lot of people do that, kind of just the default position, but I decided to get rid of them and condense them here into the spin wheel. So, you know, engineering opens up your bags, I can mount up, you know, eat food, all the things that I'd want to do, but now I don't need bars for them. And so by default, when I ring around, all I really have on screen is chat. I have this weak art here, which I'll get to in a little bit, and then my map. And this up here, Classic Hardcore Banner, which is also a weak aura. And so that one you can add different rings, which is what I've done here, and then custom bindings. So custom rings here is where you want to go create a new ring. Let's say do a food one again, food 2, add the ring, and everything here I pretty much leave alone. Click this add button to add a new slice is what it's called, and you can go to items and then double click, double click, double click, double click, click OK, and then you can go back into the ring bindings, and yeah, food 2, city key bindings, let's say Alt L. I don't think I have anything for that yet. Press Alt L, menu comes up, just like that. So I'm going to delete that because I don't actually want to use it. But that's how you do it. Now Questy, pretty standard one. Don't think I've changed anything in here. I don't believe so. I think I just let it go by default and let it do its thing. Now, weak auras. I have a couple different weak auras here. Some of them I'm not using, some of them I used in the past, but I'm trying to kind of condense things and get it looking really minimal. So the big one though is this one right here. This is called the Hardcore Crest weak aura, and this actually has a bunch in here. I'm not using all of them, and I think I actually deleted some, but by default it has some class art and kind of like timers, buff timers for different classes, you know, combo points for rogues, things of that nature. But it looks like I've deleted most of them, if not all of them, but I can provide links to get them by default. And here's a weak card that I was trying out for retail that did not work. But this one, what this will do is it will have a swing timer right here, the red, that bar will fill up, it hits the swing, resets, swing, 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 hits the swing, and that's just a nice way to have the swing timer for you. And then this white glow right here, this is for Battle Shout, and when I am outside of combat, or not outside of combat, rather when I don't have it at all, there's no glow. When I use Battle Shout, glows red, and then in about 2 minutes time, when it's about to fall off, it will then glow white again. So I really like this one. You can position it same as pretty much any weak aura, just click and drag. I've been trying to mess around with the position for it so it doesn't cut off chat, but also doesn't overlap overlap with my character, so I've kind of got it sitting right around there. I used to have it up here, but I want it closer to my character because now I really just have to have my eyes on this area. I have my health bar, my rage, swing timer, battle shout tracker, spell cooldowns, everything kind of condensed. I don't have to be looking all over the screen for, you know, damage meters, spell cooldowns, all sorts of stuff. Very minimal noise, just very simple. And so there is another weak aura in here that I was using until recently, but it's okay. And I'll show you what it does, but I've kind of gotten a little bit annoyed with it. But what it does is it puts an overlay onto some panels, not all of them. Character panel, reputation, yeah, it's just this panel. Character, reputation, skills, PvP. It gives this kind of overlay, but it blocks your character portrait, and that's kind of all it does. So I'm not super in love with it, but it's an option. If you don't want to use it, just click load never, and it goes away back to the default. So let's see my other weak auras that I have. This is part of the UI panels, but I pulled it out. I made a clone of it and then left it, so it's just a constant banner that just sits there. And then this one right here, this is actually pretty good. Weak aura that I use. This is just a simplified version of the swing timer and the white bar here, and then rage meter and the red bar. And this shows up only in combat, and it's pretty minimal too, but I just figure I'd get rid of it for a little bit and then try and rely on only the crest for the swing timer. So that's what I've been using right now, but that's another option, and I'll try and get that up so you can download it or copy the import string. So that's all I'm using for now. Crest and the banner. Let's see what else we have for add-ons. So Azerite UI, again, basically default. Bartender. I'm not trying to go super in-depth with like how to use each of these add-ons. There's plenty of bartender guides out there. I think a lot of us have probably used it for years and years at this point, but bartender with mask gives you the nice skins on your bartender bars. Combustor was the bag add-on, you know, simple but nice. Looks pretty similar to the vanilla bags, but with just a little bit more usability. Dynamic Cam does all of the camera pans and automation. Hardcore, this is an add-on that is used just to track player deaths. If you died, you have to delete. If you trade, or I'm fairly certain it blocks trading, it blocks mailboxes, it blocks anything basically that would ban you, or not ban you, but disqualify you from your run. So this is kind of separate, but it actually does do a couple cool things which I can show you. I reload the UI. Every time you log in, it does this nice, you know, little display up here, character activities being monitored. And so the same designer of this actually is the same one that did the Class Crest, I believe, Brandung Media. I'll have to double check. I know he does a lot of the art assets, but I don't know if he made the weak auras specifically, but all the artwork that's associated with it is pretty nice, and I think it meshes well with the Azerite UI. So that's what I've kind of been trying to piece together into one seamless, you know, almost like secondary interface. And so use yeah, bartender with mask, hardcore, immersion. These things all start to come together, and then Opie for the ring wheel and the different abilities. And this one right here, this is for classic achievements to make it work. If you turn that off, classic achievements doesn't work. So this is just a, I guess like a what's the word? It's dependency, or it's a dependent, so it needs it to run. And then weak aura is pretty standard. That is just about everything, I believe. I'm trying to think now before I start to wrap this up if there's anything else that I'm missing. Try add-ons menu, went through all this. The add-ons ones here. Seems like all of it. There's one other thing that you might be noticing on the video. There's like a smoke and fire effect at the bottom of the screen. This is done outside of WoW. That's something I do in Streamlabs, and those are just MP4 files with transparent background that I just copy, paste there, and then add it for a little nice effect. But that is separate from the game. I don't actually see it, so that is just for the stream. But one other thing actually that also reminds me I want to check though, my graphic settings really aren't that high. My GPU is not the best, everything else is, but the GPU itself is kind of old at this point. So graphics I leave actually relatively low. I want a 4K monitor, but I play 50% resolution, and nothing crazy going on here. My advanced settings, brightness I leave turned up just a little bit because I found that when I'm streaming to Restream, it kind of like artificially darkens the image, so I would prefer to be playing on 50 or maybe even darker than that, but it's too much on stream, and so I actually end up turning it up a little bit because I also have reshade going, which that will be the last thing that I get into, and I'm not actually sure if it's going to show up on the videos, so I'm going to try that now and see what we get. Yes, okay, so that does show up. So other than all that stuff done in game, the only thing that's happening outside of it is those overlays with the smoke and the fire and reshade. So settings that I have here are Vibrance, AMD Fidelity FX, Vignette, HDR, ADOF. This is really small, so if you guys have trouble reading it, I'm going to put a copy of it just in text because I'm having trouble reading it here, but debanding, film grain, FXAA, filmic tone map, shadows, midtones, highlights, and Technicolor. And I can actually just toggle through these each just real quick so you can see what they do. Technicolor kind of, I guess it like mutes the colors a little bit, makes it a little bit less vibrant, but then I kind of was able to add it back with some of these other ones. So we'll just go through and toggle them on and off. Some of them don't really do too much, but like this one helps to add a little bit color back when you're using Technicolor, because I do like the color palette that it uses. It makes it look a little bit more, I guess, dramatic, serious, you know, a little bit less of the cartoon WoW style. FXAA, not doing too much there, but a little bit. Film grain, this one's not very noticeable, but I actually do like it quite a bit. It just adds a very subtle film grain effect to it, so it all makes it look like you're watching it through an old TV, analog TV. Debanding, honestly some of these I don't know what they do, but I've just been found as I click them on and off over time. I kind of like it. The ones that I really like the most are definitely Vibrance, Vignette. This one adds a bit of a shadow to the corners of the screen. Film grain, I like it subtle, but I like it. Technicolor, the tone map, Vibrance, they all kind of work together to make it look a little bit darker, but not too much, and still have kind of that original charm to it. That's about everything though. It'd show you the fishing camera settings actually while I'm here. Got a druid hanging out here, but yeah, so this is the same thing. It'll do slight camera pan in, fade the UI. We also have the AFK setting again. The dynamic hand's definitely been my favorite to play around with recently. Setting the camera pans, setting the fishing positions, Hearthstone animation. So, as you can see, that's still a little bugged. A little bit of tweaking. Hopefully it works for everyone, just as good as it does for me at the very least. If you have any issues, I don't know. I don't know how to fix all of them. I'm still trying to work them out myself, but you can send me a message on Discord. If it's something that I've run into before, then definitely, but there's a lot of weird little things I've been running into, you know, so it's certainly a learning curve, but this is 95% of it, and it looks pretty sweet, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like the UI. Some people hate it, actually, which I get because there's not a lot of info. It's super minimal, and if you're the type that wants, like, threat meters, damage meters, you know, cooldown timers, that sort of thing, if you're into raiding, probably, or definitely, not the most optimal. You know, you're working with a limited set of tools here, but at the same time, it looks really good in my mind, and it's fun to play around with. So that's all I got, and I'm gonna log out now, and I might make a follow-up video in the future if people have questions, if people want to see more, if there's anything that I missed, if I make any changes, things like that. So if you make it this far, drop comments, let me know what you think, and that's gonna be it. Thank you.